UFC 312 is in the books, and it was one of the UFC events of the year. Aside from an absolute cracker of a fight on the early prelims with Rong Zhu vs Cody Steele, Owen Singh, the brother of Ilia Topuria, putting on a great striking display over Colby Thickness, the rest of the pay-per-view felt underwhelming. I know that this is an Australian card, and they have to feature Aussie fighters to show off the talent we have down under, but their performances were up and down all night unfortunately. The main event though, Strickland vs DDP, while not the worst fight on the card, was probably still the most disappointing. Every single time Strickland says that he's going to war, it's a big pile of shit. I know it's a common criticism from UFC fans, but it really is true that Strickland's game consists of teep kicks and a single jab down the pipe, with maybe a hook coming across as well. His game is one-dimensional, and while I'm not going to say it doesn't work, I mean he was a middleweight champion after all, Strickland needed to show more in this rematch and evolve. He didn't get the decision last time, so why would he let the belt slip away from him in this fight? I think he has the ability to open up and at times outstrike DDP, he just chose not to. On the other hand, I also thought that DDP would come in a lot more confident and wild early on, looking to close the show in the opening couple of rounds, but it seemed like they respected each other's striking and the fight ended up going to a decision. I expected DDP to win the fight, which he did, but I expected him to either knock Strickland out or submit him. I will say that DDP looked more and more dominant as the rounds progressed, and although his strikes continually looked more laboured, he never seemed to fully fatigue. I mean, Sean never got out of first gear to make Dricus work harder, and that was disappointing. Dricus kept beating the fuck out of Strickland, and if you hate Sean, then this fight was a huge win for you, and if you love Sean, then this probably sucks for you. I like solid, compelling fights, and even though I'm not going to say there weren't moments of excitement, like when Dricus busted Sean's nose, I'm probably not going to watch this fight again to be honest. It was just a 5-round beatdown where DDP grew into the fight while Sean was just stuck on autopilot. Besides him talking shit during pre-fight press conferences, I really don't see how people can derive enjoyment from watching Strickland inside the octagon. I never want fans to talk about Bilal being boring ever again, if they're going to sit there and try to defend Sean Strickland's style. Sure, Bilal has racked up a lot of decision wins, but he also dropped Leon Edwards on his fucking head. The constant pressure that Bilal employs, and how he combines striking and takedown work at such a high volume is super impressive. Compare that to Sean Strickland and his limited arsenal, and it's night and fucking day. Blood was shed during this rematch for sure, but Strickland vs DDP was not even close to being a war. Again, if you want to check out a war, I recommend watching the Rong Zhu vs Cody Steele fight, which was featured on the exact same card. There were real back and forth moments, a couple of potential fight-ending scenarios, and an incredible final minute that had both fighters swinging for the fucking fences. Going back to the main event fighters, Sean Strickland is only 33 years old, so he'll probably hang around the top 10. I don't see him headlining a pay-per-view event or touching UFC gold again at this point in his career, but crazier things have happened in the sport, so who knows. I mean, Strickland being a legitimate contender and jabbing his way through to UFC champion status is in itself an unlikely story. He's been an underdog for the majority of his career, and I feel like that's another reason why fans resonate with him, of course coupled with the way he speaks and conducts himself outside the ring. As for the future of the middleweight division, with the likes of Khamzat Chimaev coming through with the next title shots, I don't see Strickland being champion again. That being said, I would love a Whittaker vs Strickland to be either a co-main on a pay-per-view or even be the main event in an in-person fight night, none of that UFC Apex shit. I believe Whittaker would match Strickland's pressure and find a way over that jab of his, but we'll have to wait and see if that match ever plays out. As for DDP vs Khamzat, fuck man, that's anyone's guess. I can't even visualize how that fight would look aesthetically because they both have weird, unorthodox approaches to fighting. I'll probably have a separate video detailing my thoughts on that fight because there are so many moving parts to consider. UFC 312 might have been a bit of a letdown, which sucks as an Australian, but hopefully the next big Aussie title contender in Jack Della Maddalena can put on a more engaging performance against Leon Edwards. Beating Leon is a tall order, but if anyone can outbox him, it'd be JDM. Looking forward to that fight night. Please make sure to comment and subscribe, and I'll catch you down the road.